Wetsuits have come a long way since their origins in the 1950s. Born from war-related developments in petrochemicals, neoprene became a framework for increasing our time riding waves in the ocean. But they didn't start off all that amazing. Neoprene alone is incredibly difficult to slip into, so next came the implementation of nylon linings, meaning wetsuits became a much more comfortable option. And with seams and panels thrown in the mix too, a plethora of cringy, bright-coloured suits hit the market. Brands such as Oneill and Rip Curl stole the show, with significant innovations driving us into the 2020s, where now a huge number of brands have entered the market. What many people don't realise is that most of these wetsuits, regardless of the brand, are actually all made in the same factory in Taiwan, Sheico. But what I've learned producing this series is that it doesn't exactly mean that all brands are the same. I've received 6 top-of-the-line wetsuits to review here, and I want to use this review as a vehicle to explore the wetsuit industry at large. We'll take a deep dive into what each brand is doing, who's innovating, who's being sustainable, and does this come at a performance cost? And finally, who's making the best suit, in my opinion. We'll also test a handful of accessories as well. None of the brands have paid any money to be involved in the series, nor have they offered any incentives for me to give a good review. I'll be putting them through their paces in Victoria, on the surf coast, and in chilly South Australia, which is where I grew up. Water temperatures ranging from 12 to 13 degrees Celsius. As usual, we ask that should you choose to order any of these suits based off this production, throw in a mention of the word broccoli to help us track our influence on the industry. The goal, of course, is not to disparage any brand or provide any controversy. This is all about working out which suit is the best after a month of wearing it. Now, we're also importantly going to come back in a year's time and work out which brand stands the longevity test. This series is brought to you by the Surfer's Roadmap. It's my online surfing curriculum designed to give you the tools, lessons, and clarity to progress your surfing from wherever you are all the way through to advanced. Check it out via the link in the description below. And now let's rip in. One of the big benefits of the new Wetty is I can get changed here in the van instead of out in the freezing cold water. Let's see how this Rip Curl wetsuit goes. First thing I'm noticing is how easy this is to get on, being a 3-2. Just feels really quite effortless, which is nice, and if I may say so, rather comfortable too. Oh, no loop on the booties. Damn it. Oh, they're so hard to get on. My first surf in the E7 Flash Bomb Heatseeker was as pleasant as they come. This is the Mercedes of wetsuits. At a whopping 750 Aussie dollars, its features would want to be pretty tidy, and it seems to deliver.
For the Heatseeker, it is all about the ultimate warmth. And you know, we really don't, in that ultimate segment, we sort of try not to compromise too much, I guess, on materials. We want the best sort of materials and manufacturing.
The rubber is incredibly soft and malleable, making it super easy to get on, and for a 3-2 in the middle of winter, it does the job of keeping you warm. The flash lining actually creates warmth as the material stretches, and you can actually feel it over the shoulders as you're paddling. Performance-wise, this is the most flexible suit I got to try in this series. Yes, partly because it is a 3-2, but there's also definitely a very buttery neoprene being used here. The booties, once on, are fantastic. They were a little too narrow for my wide feet though. I may have been given the wrong size. The decision to leave off the hoop I think is a bit of a mistake because I ended up using whatever I could get my hands on to pull the heel through. I was just going to pull this on and I tried to pull it up here and then it just ripped off. So unfortunately, lesson learned. You don't need the strap up there anyway. I think it's excessive, but it's just a bit annoying. Got to put a hoop on there, Rip Curl.
We are working on another way to get it back in. so that people don't pull like the arse of it out. That's it's definitely something that comes up because obviously people wearing boots down here at the moment.
The gloves are great. The flash lining allows for a thinner rubber to be used whilst maintaining the warmth, and thus they are much less of a hindrance to paddle and pop up in. No complaints, and probably my favourite ones I've tried so far. Is this the perfect suit? Well, maybe. If you've got $750 to throw at a wetsuit in a season, then yes, this could be the one for you. I mean, that sort of wetsuit is starting to make me rethink winter and what winter means, because that's the most flexible and comfortable wetsuit for winter that I've probably ever worn. It is a 3-2 though. It's probably, on par with other 3-2s in terms of flexibility, but in terms of warmth as well, right now, third surf in, pretty darn good.
We are in those other factories you spoke of. That the other brands are in, and you can definitely innovate with them as well. But we are the only brand that owns our own finished goods wetsuit factory. Having our own wetsuit factory means that we can sort of, I guess you can call up and say, hey, we're working on this, can we get this changed and tweaked pretty quickly?
One of the biggest disruptors to the wetsuit game is Need Essentials. Their equivalent winter suit, a 4-3 liquid tape steamer, comes in at $340 AUD, less than half the price of the RC. Whilst in Torquay, I popped into their humble store to grab some gear. That's a comfy booty. One of the obvious things about the Need wetsuits is the price, and given that most wetsuits are all made in the same factory, using similar technology, it's pretty hard to beat a wetsuit that comes in, sometimes $200, $300 cheaper than competitors. And I think that's why they've been a major market disruptor. The question is though, is the quality the same? Does it fit? Does it last? Does it stretch? We will see.
We're not cutting any corners, all the suits are glued, blind stitched, taped. Some of the suits, the one you're trying is liquid taped on the outside to basically stop any form of leaks. We're paying, top dollar to get these wetsuits produced. And then, we're in that position where we supply direct. So, we've cut out the middleman and we're not holding back though. We're trying to do everything we can to make the best possible wetsuits.
A lot of the Australian surf companies have been brought out by overseas sort of multinational companies and bankers, and a lot of the sort of surf industry's departed, with that move. So I'm sort of really happy to see us grow in that space and employing people in Australia and catering for the market well here. So and I'm really sort of grateful for everyone that's supported it.
The Need feels like a working man's suit. It definitely brings a bit more weight to the table, being a 4-3, but once on, it fits really snugly and it doesn't feel heavy at all. There's really nothing to complain about with the suit. Warm, stretchy as far as a 4-3 goes, and with all the regular bells and whistles. The chest zip is well placed, so you don't have to go trying to hook both lines together, a pet hate of mine, especially in cold waters with gloves on. Interestingly, this is the only wetsuit that I've ever worn as a large, so make sure you do your sizing research when you're buying one. The guys also gave me a pair of 4mm boots to try. These were particularly well-fitting boots for me, so initially I had a really good experience in them. They didn't get in the way, they were warm, and had a high degree of sensitivity so I could feel the surfboard. And they come with a hoop. After a while, I found the boots just sort of lost their suction on my feet and became a little bit loose. So I'm wondering if I maybe had a size too big, but regardless, they were really great boots. They just didn't fit perfectly after a few sessions. It's a rugged wetsuit, this one. Built for cold, rough temperatures. But surprisingly, there's not too much restriction once it's on. It's more like putting it on and taking it off, where I feel this wetsuit really shows its girth and its muscle. You know what I mean? But yeah, certainly not in the water. I didn't feel restricted. Obviously felt pretty toasty. It's a great suit, no complaints. Just just a hard yakka wetsuit.
The liquid tape wetsuit is a bit stiffer because it's, obviously on the outside of the suit, and you've got to kind of compromise. If you're looking for like crazy warmth, I'd suggest that. But then if you're looking for flexibility, I'd go just like the thermal line suit, which doesn't have the liquid taping.
Neoprene has typically been pretty awful for the environment, but the industry is changing. In the last decade or so, most brands have shifted from petrochemical-based neoprenes and foams to limestone neoprene. A step up from limestone neoprene in an environmental sense would be Ulex, who famously teamed up with Patagonia to pioneer the widespread use of natural rubber from rubber trees. Utilising FSC certified processes, they produce a material that is close to matching the more traditional neoprenes in terms of quality and performance. Out of all the wetsuits tested in this project, Need Essentials are the only brand who offer a Ulex range. But every brand involved in this test emphasised how much of an important issue sustainability has become when it comes to producing suits, and all are taking advantage of improved sustainability practices either in-house or at Sheico. Recycled rubber, water-based glues, better dyeing techniques and more, these are all consumer-demanded innovations that each brand has adopted in 2022, and I'm sure there's going to be more improvements in this space into the future. But it may not just be about better raw materials, and some believe the most eco wetsuit you can develop is the one that lasts the longest.
We talked about the performance side to it and the amount of stretch and the improvements that have happened there. In many ways, some of that has come at the cost of durability. So I'd like to think in the future we can improve the environmental effects of the wetsuit by increasing the actual durability of the suits as well.
I mean, realistically, we could make a wetsuit that stretched and was way lighter than what we've got in the market currently, that would feel amazing, awesome to wear, and feel like you're wearing nothing, but would not last. Durability is a key thing, a filter for us to do when we're considering making a product and taking it to market. Ideally, our entire range of wetsuits would be made from sustainable materials, or made with sustainability in mind, and be even better than what they are now. That to me is my ultimate goal for wetsuits.
Next year, I'm going to test the exact same suits again after surfing in them or having friends surf in them for an entire season. This future assessment will be pretty vital in determining a suit's longevity and ultimate sustainability. The full Oneill get up today. Got the hoodie, the Hyper Freak, and the booties. And I'm going to be surfing on my own, so I'm frothing. Ew. The Hyper Freak was something I was really looking forward to in this series, and it didn't disappoint. For a 4.3, it's super flexible and yet still carries that meat to keep your torso and legs warm throughout the session. They have a graphene-infused inner liner for extra warmth, and I must say the inside of the suit is particularly comfortable. I first wore this suit in the freezing wave pool in the middle of winter at about 9 degrees, and I was totally fine. Oh, I was worried I was going to be like super freezing, but in the end it held up. Like, it's only 9 degrees or something, and I felt super warm in this, and I'm like flexy as, feels really nice. Back in the ocean, I think I actually would have preferred a 3.2 just to gain that extra performance feel similar to the Flash Bomb. I definitely think it could have handled it. The only criticism I had of this suit was the hoop of the firewall. Maybe because of my shape, it tended to restrict my neck a little whilst paddling. I think if the guys had any stock, I would have requested a chest zip, which might have taken the edge off that firewall, that loop. I'd say this wetsuit sits between the classiness of the rip curl and the fundamentalism of the Need wetsuit. It costs 580 Aussie dollars.
For the high-end wetsuits, you generally feel a lot more stretch throughout the whole body. So certainly for advanced surfers, the benefit would be that range of movement through the surfing maneuver itself. Less fatigue, and certainly, even to the process of jumping up to your feet on a surfboard. If you've got great stretch rubber throughout the back and down through the lower, back into your legs, there's just such less resistance.
I also received some booties from the guys, and these are really sick, super high end and functional. As I said, toward the end of using the Need booties, I found them a little bit too floppy for some reason. They didn't quite fit as well as they did when I first got them. Whereas the Oneill booties stayed rigid enough to feel durable and tough, but flexible enough to offer sensitivity into the surfboard. The hood they gave me became my go-to. With the fire lining on the inside, it was hot. Pretty much if the sun was out, I couldn't even wear it because I would just cook. So I'd probably reserve this for super early sessions or in the pool in winter. Oh, I just had to dip because it's so hot. Great wetsuit. Fantastic. Hurley was a last minute addition to the test. Back in my Grom days, I'd worn some of their wetties for a while and I remember them being super flexible. And this wettie didn't disappoint. For a 4.3, it was really comfortable and stretchy and ticked all the spec boxes like double glued, blind stitched, taped, etc, etc. It's a well-priced suit at 430 Aussie dollars, but there is an ultra option in this wetsuit line with the Advantage Max, which brings a smooth skin exterior for extra heat, and that'll cost you around 600 bucks. A point of difference with the Hurley wetties is they've structured the neoprene thickness differently to others. Oh, my hands! 3mm arms, 4mm chest, back and upper leg, and 5mm in the lower leg. And this is a reflection of scientific research suggesting heat loss was highest in the lower extremities. If your arms are moving all the time, they generally won't lose that much heat, whereas your legs, which are pretty static most of the time in surfing, do. Hence the extra thickness down there, 5mm of neoprene. Whatever it is they're doing, I'm liking it. And for the price, I think this suit is great value for money. Again, with this one, really no complaints at all. Handled the cold, flexible, light, made sustainably as far as wetties go. It's a great suit. Wow, just no leakage whatsoever. I didn't expect that. Nice work, Hurley. So it's the Quickie 4.3 Highline. Chest zip. I like the look of the inside here. Super lightweight for a 4.3. Super light. And stretchy. It gets my big feet pretty quickly. Oh, the peak moment. The little thing is quite hidden. The little tab, which makes it quite tricky to get in. But not too bad, relatively seamless. Well, I was surprised with this one. For me, admittedly, a long time ago, I had always heard complaints about Quicksilver suits, so I felt nervous getting one with my commitment to open and honest reviews. I needn't have worried because it seems that Quick have upped their game in a big way during recent times. The Highline 4.3 felt like a 3.2. It was that light, and it was the only suit that didn't have any leaks whatsoever for the first 3 or 4 sessions. It's not an exaggeration to say that it feels like a 3.2 whilst wearing it because it's very flexible and the comfort is kind of out of this world too. The red material is their signature warm flight thermal fleece lining and it feels like you're wearing a comfy hoodie or a sweater or something. I can see how perhaps in frigid temperatures this suit wouldn't quite cut it, as it didn't bring that ultra heat like the Oneill, Need or Rip Curl, but it was definitely more than enough in the 13-degree water that I surfed in. Flexible, definitely no leaks. I noticed that that was quite noticeable. Just comfortable, lightweight, strong, and functional. Yeah, not disappointed once again. It's pretty difficult to criticise a wetsuit within 4 to 5 sessions. Most wetsuits are fantastic for the first season, and the rubber really hits the road when you enter a second season. Have the linings stretched out of place? Are there persistent leaks? Most of the experts that I spoke to really emphasised proper care of a wettie in order to increase its longevity.
The way surfers look after wetsuits is hilarious.
Surfers are notoriously bad at that, like most of us are. You're hanging out in the sun, you piss in it, it's in a car park, you're treading on it, you're stretching it. The more you look after it and actually care for it, the longer it will last.
If you want your wetsuit to last, don't hang it in the sun. So use it as much as you want, take it off carefully, put it on carefully. But if you want to double its lifetime, put it in the shade to dry.
And you imagine if you get a rubber band and just leave it in the sun for a week, see what it looks like over time, it deteriorates really quickly. So it's just an example of how UV can kill a wetsuit.
To create a control here for our eventual longevity test with each suit, throughout this series I have rinsed every wettie after every session in fresh water and mostly hung everything in the shade. These two simple strategies could save you a ton of cash each year on wetties and also save valuable resources each year as well. So this is the Billabong furnace, and I've been actually wearing it on the east coast up around Lennox and Byron and stuff all winter, and it's actually been really, really nice. I'm talking super comfortable. It's almost like putting a sweater on, like a waterproof sweater. It was just that comfy. This funny thing here, which rather than going on from behind, it actually goes on from the front. I first surfed the furnace over on the east coast of Australia, so it offered great warmth over there, but it also performed down here in South Oz. I wasn't cold at all, especially with some extra accessories on. Billabong have exclusive wetsuit use of a tech called Graphene Plus, which is infused into their nylon linings and is intended to create great warmth. It's touted as the most heat conductive material on the planet without the extra weight. What really impressed me though was the comfort. Initially, putting it on rivaled the Quick Highline experience. It felt stretchy and comfortable. However, even after caring for the suit diligently, I did find that this stretch and comfort didn't quite persist. The suit became more standard after about 5 to 6 surfs and didn't really carry that incredible stretch that it used to either. I'm wondering if this is because of the graphene? I'm not sure, but I'm not as excited about it now as when I first tried it. Notably, Billabong also sent me a short arm, which also had that insane stretch. Now, importantly, this stretch actually persisted in the short arm months into wearing it, so it's become a solid go-to for me. It's super, super nice. I'd still call this an East Coast suit. I feel like if it was windy, it wasn't such a nice day, I'd be a little bit nippy. But yeah, it's almost right there. It's great. I'm wrapping up the scene, Mum. How does this bloody thing work? One thing this series has taught me is that wetsuits have come a long way, not just since they were invented, but just in the past 5 years. The fact that I didn't experience a bad suit is super reaffirming that the industry is headed in the right direction and taking their product development seriously. The performance aspect of wetsuits has gone through the roof, and this, coupled with a commitment to developing even more sustainable practices and materials, is super positive for the surf industry and community. All the suits tested here would be a great purchase for you guys, but it's time to announce my favourite one. I've arrived in France at the end of summer and it's super warm, and I'm going to transition into winter, which means I've got a few different suits from the test that I brought with me. I brought the Billabong Furnace 3.2 over whilst I was still happy with it, but as mentioned, the soft comfort didn't quite persist with this one. A decent suit and warm, but not super flexible like their 2.2, which doesn't have the graphene. I also brought the Rip Curl Flash Bomb gloves, which I love, the Oneill Hyperfreak hoodie, which is incredibly warm, and they're very functional and reliable booties, all of which I recommend grabbing if you're in colder climates. And the winner, my favourite suit, the Quicksilver Highline. The Quicksilver Highline remains one of the comfiest suits I've ever worn, and it's keeping me toasty as the water cools down here in France. I think the feature that really won me over was the extreme flex without sacrificing any warmth, and the fact that even now, maybe 10 surfs in, it still hasn't leaked at all. It's a great suit and I highly recommend it. Hats off to all our other participants as well, with a special mention I think deserved to Rip Curl and Oneill for, as far as my research goes, really pioneering a lot of the positive developments we've seen in the wetsuit space over the past 5, 10, 15 and even 20 years. Remember, if you choose to buy a suit based off this review, leave a mention of the word broccoli in your order notes, as this helps us track our influence on the industry and solidifies future productions like this one. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these suits stack up next season after dishing them out to a couple of friends and surfing in them myself as much as possible over a year. But of course, you'll have to wait for that video until this time next year. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you can. So that you know when we upload new videos. And finally, drop me a comment. What is your favourite wetsuit? I'd love to hear about any new brands or something revolutionary that you're currently trying out. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Ew. This series is brought to you by the Surfer's Roadmap. It's my online surfing curriculum designed to give you the tools, lessons, and clarity to progress your surfing from wherever you are all the way through to advanced. Check it out via the link in the description below.